Okay, welcome to the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning meeting for September 17th. By way of introduction, I'm Vince Tabella. To my left is Ms. Michelle Dalkey, Mr. Michael Clement, Ms. Lisa Hudson, Ms. Suzanne Johnson, Ms. Shelley Allen, and Mr. Steve Akita. If you would like to speak on any item on tonight's agenda, please fill out a blue card and provide it to one of the staff members to make sure we get that in our flow of information. We also have a quick video for your enjoyment on what we do at the meeting and some rules and regulations. Thank you.
Welcome to the City of Mesa Planning and Zoning Board meeting. We appreciate your interest in the future development of our community and welcome your comments. At this time, we ask you to turn off or select the vibrate option on your mobile devices. Today's agenda includes a consent agenda. These items will be read into the record and acted on in one motion. If you would like to speak on any of these items, please fill out a blue card located in the back of the room and bring it to the front. The items will then be removed from the consent agenda and voted on individually. Each case will be introduced by city staff, then the applicant, followed by public comments. The Planning and Zoning Board makes recommendations to the City Council and votes on each case. City Council meetings are held twice a month at 5:45 p.m. in the Council Chambers. Visit mesaaz.gov to view their meeting schedule. All planning and zoning meetings are broadcast live and rebroadcast on Mesa Channel 11. To view the programming schedule, visit mesachannel11.com.
Great, thank you. Any blue cards? Anybody? Staff? None? Okay. First item of business would be consider the meeting minutes from the previous meetings. Is there a motion to, someone like to make a motion?
I would make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Please vote. There we go. We have approval with one abstention. Mr. Clement.
I was absent.
That's fine. Thank you. Next item would be the items in the consent agenda. Ms. Dalkey has graciously accepted to read the agenda. Thank you.
You're welcome. Item D1, KZ 1442, District 6, 7930 East Germain Road, located east of Sossaman Road on the north side of Germain Road, approximately 19 acres. This is a site plan review to allow for the development of a solar panel test site, approval with conditions. Item D2, KZ 1443, District 2, 448 North Greenfield Road, located north of University Drive on the west side of Greenfield Road, approximately 2 acres. This is a site plan modification to allow for the development of a 2-story self-storage facility, approval with conditions. Item E1, KZ 1444, District 2, 5404 East Southern Avenue, located east of Higley Road on the north side of Southern Avenue, approximately 1.5 acres. Rezoning from OCBIZ to OC and site plan modification to allow for the development of a veterinary office, approval with conditions. And item F1, Mulberry Marketplace preliminary plat, District 6, the 10,600 to 10,800 blocks of East Guadalupe Road on the north side, located at the northwest corner of Guadalupe and Signal Butte Roads, approximately 20 acres, approval with conditions.
Great, thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. Please vote. The motion passes unanimously. So first case for consideration, tonight's agenda would be E2, case Z14-45, District 6, the 8400 block through 10800 block of East Elliott Road, located between Haas Road and Signal Butte on the north side of Elliott. Rezoning to create an Elliott Road technology corridor, planned area development overlay. Mr. Ellsworth, would you like to do a presentation?
Yes, we would like to turn over to Kim Lofgren from our Economic Development Department to make the presentation on the request.
Thank you. Chair and members of the board, thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about the Elliott Road Technology Corridor Light Industrial Plant Area development overlays rezoning application. From here on out, I'm going to refer to it as the pad overlay or the overlay. That's just a little easier to say. So the area under consideration is approximately 1.5 square miles, and it includes the area north of Elliott Road. So you can see on the graphic there, it's north of Elliott Road, east of Hawes Road, west of Signal Butte Road, and south of the Salt River Project transmission lines. So the purpose of doing this pad overlay zone is so that we can expedite the entitlement process and cut entitlement risk so that we can attract high technology companies to the Elliott Road Technology Corridor. And thus we can create high quality jobs, high technology jobs, and create investment in the area. And then secondly, it's to establish a site planning design guidelines so that we can ensure that there's compliance with the City of Mesa General Plan and the Mesa Gateway Strategic Development Plan. So this area has been planned for employment-related uses for about the last 20 years. And the area has tremendous assets that are well-suited and highly desired by high-technology companies. If you look on the graphic there, you can see on the north side of the overlay zone, you have you have the transmission line. So you have 500 kV, you have 230 kV, and 69 kV transmission lines that all feed into, on the far right, you'll see the Browning receiving station. From there, the power can be distributed to substations. And so, for instance, you can see on the graphic there, you have the Apple facility there. So power can come at the Apple facility or another facilities there. There's very few places that are quite like this in the valley. Also, in the area, you have sufficient amount of power. You have a 30-inch water line, 24-inch sewer line. You have the Salt River Project's telecommunication fiber network right there. So these are all highly desirable assets and infrastructure for high technology companies. Also, you have in place high pressure gas lines, and you have easy access to the freeway system and to the Gateway Airport there. Again, highly desirable assets for high technology companies. So as you all know, Apple has located in that area, and it's precisely for these assets that are in place. So by conducting this rezoning process right now and creating the overlay zone right now, landowners can opt into the pad overlay at a later date when we have a prospective high-tech employer that wants to come into the area and build a facility in the area. At that time, the developer only needs to submit the necessary paperwork, the site plan, elevations, landscape design to the city planning department for approval. The developer won't need to go through the rezoning process because we're going through that right now. And the overlay will already be in place, so they can already take advantage of it. Now, it's important to note that a property owner does not need to opt in to the overlay zone until they're ready. And we see this pad overlay zone is really critical to our efforts in recruiting high-quality companies to the area. When we can expedite the entitlement process, we can decrease the company's time to market. You know, if a company can get up and running quickly, they get their product to market quickly. And sometimes these are very strategic moves that these companies need to make. They can't afford to wait. They got to get these processes going and moving forward. So if we can do that, it expedites their process, and it cuts and reduces their entitlement risk. And these are critical points in their site selection process. So as I talked about here, some of the key factors, so success factors in the site selection process are having a robust infrastructure, having shovel-ready sites. We have those. And the overlay zone will give us then reduced entitlement risk and reduced time to market. So we also talked about guidelines that will be put into place. Now, the guidelines for this pad overlay zone will be a little bit... Well, there will be additional guidelines that you might not find in a light industrial zoning designation. So, for instance, the guidelines for this, we're going to emphasize employment or technology-related employment uses. And and we want high-tech companies in the area. Retail uses will be limited to those compatible with and complementary to the development of the Elliott Road Technology Corridor, which the overlay lies right in that corridor. There will be restrictions on certain types of uses. So, for instance, you won't see building material companies in there. You won't see storage yards. We don't want to see, maintenance and repair companies or recycling facilities. We won't have any heavy industrial companies in that area. So there will be some restrictions put in place. And also, we'll have architectural design standards in place so that we can have attractive, high-quality mixture of architectural styles. Landscaping design lines will be in place so that we can have a unified project. It'll have a sense of place. And then there will be height restrictions in place as well, especially in those areas that are close to the residential areas. And there will be no connecting roads are planned right now to connect the light industrial areas to the neighborhoods. The only connection would be through the main arterial, and that's Chrisman. The transmission lines that are there will act as a buffer between the overlay zone, the area where buildings and landscaping will be, and that's about 250 feet. So what's critical to us, though, and most important to us, is that we want to use this as a tool to attract the right kind of companies to the area. Without this tool, it's going to be a little more difficult for us. Obviously, whenever you go to market and whenever you're trying to attract customers, you want to have a very strong value proposition. And this gives us a strong value proposition. We have the infrastructure, we have the sites, when we have a reduced entitlement risk and a reduced entitlement process. With those tools, we can go out and recruit the right type of companies. That's my presentation. Do we turn it over to Tom? Do you have some additional things that you would like to add to that?
Yes. Mr. Chairman, members of the board, there's a couple of things that we'd like to add. What this does is gives the city a great economic development tool in order to attract the types of businesses that Mr. Lofgren described. A couple of important things to note is this doesn't at this time change the zoning on the property. That property owner still has to opt in. The existing zoning remains in place until that time. In exchange for opting in, what this overlay does is sets up design standards to ensure quality of development, ensures compatibility with the neighborhoods. It ensures, when they enter into the agreement, they are limiting specific land uses that would normally be allowed within the limited industrial zoning. So the point to be made is this area has been planned for employment uses and light industrial type uses for the last 20 to 30 years. What this is allowing us to do is not only attract those types of development that we would like to see in the area, but it's also helping us to build in the controls on quality as that comes in. So with that, we are recommending approval with conditions, and in the conditions we outline that process of how somebody would opt in. There would be an opt-in form that they would sign and record with us, and as part of that, there would be a development agreement that they enter in with the city. They also would be signing a Prop 207 waiver at that time. Another important fact is, although that the site planning would happen administratively, it'd still be required to go through the design review process to help us ensure that quality. And in essence, what it could do is it could take a process, an entitlement process that could normally take 4 to 6 months to go through, and reduce that timing to possibly 1 to 2. Those are just approximates. But having that amount of time savings at the front end of trying to attract one of these types of businesses to the area is a very valuable asset.
Thank you. Board members, any questions? Steve?
I was just wondering, you have all this infrastructure, and I might be a little bit behind the times, but would something like fiber optic lines be important for anything like that, or is that not used anymore?
No, that is very important, and so I probably wasn't very clear. Salt River Project has fiber optic lines running along those transmission lines, and so, in fact, what those lines are, they call them dark fiber, meaning that there's no dedicated provider, so it's not a CenturyLink line or a Comcast or Cox or whatever. It's so a company can go in and become their own provider, and so this is really a valuable asset.
Yeah, because I think on Power Road, I think there are some fiber optic lines, but I think they're in the ground. But I was just curious, if you're going to do the high tech in that area, that would probably be kind of important unless
Yeah.
something else is being used that I'm not aware of, so.
Yeah. So, and the capacity is there in those fiber optic lines.
Anybody else? Mr. Clement?
Yes, I had a question. How many different ownership groups are impacted by the corridor? One, several, do you know?
There are several, and I wouldn't be able to give you a number. There's probably 4, 5, 6, 7 different property owners in there, but I don't know the exact number on that, so that'd be something I'd have to come back to you with.
That's fine. And so the question is, have they been approached on this?
Yeah, so we've
this
approached.
overlay, and what kind of response have you received from them?
You know, we've sent out notifications to all the property owners. I've had one conversation with a property owner who was very excited about that, about the opportunity to have this overlaid and be able to opt in. And the other point about this is they don't have to opt in. They can keep the current zoning that they have. So it's kind of a win-win for the property owners. So I myself have only talked with one property owner that I know of. We had a neighborhood meeting where we invited all the neighbors in the area as well as all the property owners to come and voice their ideas and their opinions and concerns.
But in any event, all property owners have been notified.
I think all the property owners have been notified, and people in our office have had conversations with them.
Okay. Anybody else? Ms. Allen?
One more question, and there's probably a purpose for it. I'm sure you guys methodically thought this through. But the property to the south, where Apple is existing, you didn't expand it to include that side of the.
Well, I think John can answer this, or Tom can answer this much better than I. But they do have some special zoning that is in place. Please.
That's the Eastmark property. The Eastmark property has a community plan that was approved. The community plan gives, it's almost exact, this is almost mimicking that same type of approval. When Apple came through, there was a limited amount of entitlement that needed to be done because it had already been done through that community plan. So really what it's doing is taking the north side of Elliott Road and giving it almost the same advantages that the south side has.
Okay. Anybody else? I do have a couple. Is there an exhibit that shows the height limitation, kind of where that is graphically on the property? Because I know it's described verbally, but 250 feet, 350 feet, it's not, visually it's hard to really understand.
I don't have one on me right now. That transmission line corridor is 250 feet. It's a half mile from Elliott Road to the north line of that. So that would be 2,640 feet. So I don't know if you can visualize that. Yeah. So under that 250 feet, there's limitations. There's no building that can take place under there. So from that 250 feet plus an additional 350 feet for 600 feet, the height limit remains the same as in any LI zoned area. So for almost an eighth of a mile. After that, the maximum height would be 150 feet. So it's about an eighth of a mile.
Okay. It may be useful to have an exhibit available so that it's a little clearly defined as to where it's at, just for future reference. Second question is, I'm going to do this by way of example, and maybe it's not a fair question, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Apple, which was First Solar initially, would that type of facility be allowed either by right or in the current guidelines as described in the document in the overlay district? And the reason why I bring that up is you have a prohibited list in terms of materials, and there was some at the time when First Solar came through and did their facility, there was concern about what that facility looked like, the materials that it was constructed under. I'm just curious if something similar would be allowed in this overlay.
Doesn't look like anybody else is wanting to answer. I'm not sure which one of these microphones works. Okay. Mr. Chairman, so you're not really talking about the use as you're talking about the building itself, and could that building type be done? I guess I'd have to flip back through here so that refresh my memory exactly on what we said here. Tom, I don't know if you remember from your last writing of this, but about the building materials that are.
I believe Apple is tilt concrete construction. I believe that would still be allowed in there. What's important to note is that building, they have their design review process through Eastmark. We were able to review that. Actually, that one, through that development unit plan, did come back to this board for site planning also. But a similar building to that type could possibly go there. I mean, the constructions, the design, it would all be reviewed similarly to the way it was reviewed and approved before. So whether or not you get that exact design scheme.
The reason I bring it up, it says pre-engineered metal-sided buildings as prohibited materials and colors under the design guidelines, which I don't disagree with, because this whole idea of high-tech and technology that would not seem to be appropriate for that type of use. But I'm just throwing that out there. If a use like that were to come through, it fits the other criteria in terms of perhaps technology, but in terms of the quality level, we are trying to strive for something a little better. Is that a fair statement?
That would be a fair statement.
Any other comments? Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve with listed conditions, zoning. What would it be? Let me make sure which one number I'm on, the right one. Hang on. I got the wrong one. Yep, I got it. Z14-45, approval with the conditions as listed.
Is there a
I'll second.
Great. Please vote. There we go. It approves unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, next item G1, amending section 1141-7 of the sign ordinance for the use of banners. Mr. Sheffield.
Chair, members of the board, the current sign ordinance places limitations on the use of fabric and temporary types of signs. Among those, they'll includes a restriction that only allows the use of banners on streetlight poles in the downtown area. As many of you may be familiar, there's construction ongoing on Southern Avenue in the Fiesta District between Extension and Dobson Road. And part of the installation of the streetlight poles that are part of that redevelopment of that street include poles that have specific devices that are built into the poles themselves and can accommodate banners. But the Fiesta District is outside of the downtown. So under current ordinance, those streetlight poles could not be used for banners. Before you is a proposal that would modify the existing sign code. It would do so by basically placing under the direction of the city manager a streetlight banner program that would be basically available anywhere in the city. There are certain criteria that we've incorporated into that code amendment. For the most part, the policy had initially been developed under the idea that most of the streetlight poles in Mesa had not been evaluated as to whether or not they could accommodate the additional wind load that might come from a banner. So if there was a microburst or some other kind of extraordinary wind event to take place, there wasn't the confidence there as to whether or not those streetlight poles could accommodate the extra wind load with a banner on it. So the city just had a prohibition. No, you couldn't do that. It made the answer easy. It said if someone came to us and said, can we use the streetlights for banners? We'd say no, it's prohibited under the sign code. We're proposing to reevaluate that. To place this street banner program under the direction of the city manager or their designee. The criteria would include an evaluation of the streetlights on which the banners would be placed to assure, under the city engineer's supervision, whether or not that particular streetlight could accommodate the extra wind load for the banner itself, and what kind of special device might be added to that, or whether or not the pole itself has the structural integrity to accommodate without any additional, or whether or not a replacement is necessary. The additional criteria that we've developed, the limitations that are in the existing code for downtown would remain in terms of the amount of space of the banner itself that could be used for possible sponsorships. That remains 15% for a single light pole or 30% for an over-the-street banner. We've also placed safety limitations on this so that the bottom of the banner itself is at least 16 feet high to make sure that truck traffic can go underneath it, or if it's less than 16 feet, then it has to be at least 1 foot from the face of the curb or the edge of the pavement so we can get it away from the street itself and truck traffic can pass by. We've also, there was one other thing. Excuse me for a second. That the banners themselves would be, if there's ever any kind of evidence of deterioration of the banner itself, either through rips or tears, fading of the colors, or for some reason something else that needs kind of some maintenance, they would either be removed promptly or replaced promptly. The one other thing in the criteria is that the banners themselves have to display something that relates back to some sort of civic aspect or public aspect of this. These are not to be used for some sort of commercial purpose. So that's why there's a limitation on the sponsorship. They're supposed to promote something in the downtown. They're supposed to promote a civic activity, a civic event, or something along that line. That's the basic purpose for these types of things. It's a general celebration of the community, not necessarily for it to be used for an advertising purpose. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Board members? Mr. Akita?
Who would be putting up these banners? Maybe I missed that. I'm sorry.
More than likely, it would be done through the city, either by contract or through city staff.
Did we have a weight limitation on that? I don't know if that would be important or not.
That would be something that the city engineer would determine when they were doing their structural calculations. There would basically be standards that would set up, and that would be something that would, again, be done through our engineering office.
Okay.
Anybody else? Nope. So, Mr. Sheffield, you're being recommended with the revised
yes,
items.
We had our engineering staff look at those. They asked us to make an or statement for the minimum height from the street or the minimum distance from the face of curb. We did that. We had previously written that as an and statement.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the sign ordinance with the revisions provided today.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Please vote. It passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next item is item H, public hearing, discuss major plan amendments. H1, case number GP Major 14-01. Mr. Wesley, is there any discussion on this, or is this primarily a call for any
right, Mr. Chair, it's a public hearing, so you need to go ahead and open the public hearing. At this point, I'm not aware of any cards, but we'll see it at that point and then take the action. Then there could be board discussion if anybody does have questions.
Okay, I'll read it in the record. Northeast corner of McDowell and Higley Roads, located between Higley and Record Roads, north of McDowell. District 5, general plan land use amendment for business park and community commercial to mixed-use residential. Anyone from the public wish to speak, or any blue cards?
No cards been submitted.
Okay. Any board discussion? I guess that closes the public hearing.
This is the second
H2, case number GP Major 1402, northeast corner of Crisman Road and US 60 Freeway. General plan amendment, major amendment for business park and community commercial to medium density residential to MDR 610 dwelling units per acre. Anyone from the public wish to speak? Any blue cards?
No cards?
None? Any board discussion? No? None? Okay, that closes the public hearing. Now, I'm sorry, do we take action?
Yes, now
action
you're
on
good
this?
to go on both of them to continue them to the November meeting.
Okay, so getting back to case number GP Major 14-01, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue it to the November 19th meeting,
Okay.
2014.
All right. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
Please vote. Relax, relax.
Or not?
Let's try again. It passes unanimously. Item H2 again, case number GP Major 14-02. Would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to continue GB Major 14-02 to the November 19th
Okay.
meeting.
And I'll second that.
Great, thank you. Please vote. That passes as well. Any other business? Anybody? Mr. Wesley, anything? No? That concludes our meeting for tonight. Thank you.